Hey guys, I don't even know where to start. My name's Dylan. I'm 25 years old, and I just recently moved into this apartment complex in Portland. Yeah, Portland. I work as a freelance graphic designer. I spend most of my time at home staring at my dual monitors, drinking way too much coffee, and talking to my dog Bruno like he's my roommate. I'm single not because I want to be, but you know how it is. Life, work, bad dates repeat. So anyway, this story is the craziest thing that's ever happened to me whilst to me saying, huh? I moved to here a while ago. The building is nothing special. 4 floors, red brick, squeaky elevator, and the weirdest mix of neighbors I've ever seen. There's the older guy who smokes cigars on the balcony, the loud family on the second floor, and then there was her. I didn't even know her name at first. I just noticed her. You couldn't not notice her. She had this aura about her, mid-30s, maybe sharp features, dark hair, always tied up in a messy bun, sunglasses even when it wasn't sunny. She always walked confidently, always in heels, even to get her mail. I started calling her Mystery Woman in my head. The first time we crossed paths was at the mailboxes. I said hi. She nodded, barely smiled, and disappeared into apartment 3B. That was it. For days, I would hear her heels clicking past my door, the faint sound of music sometimes. I never saw anyone else go in or out of her apartment. Last Friday, I had one of those days where nothing goes right. My client wanted revisions at the last minute. My Wi-Fi was down for hours. And to top it off, I locked myself out of my apartment. Yeah, Bruno was barking from inside my keys, sitting smugly on the kitchen counter. I stood in the hallway like an idiot trying to figure out what to do when I heard her door open behind me. I turned around and there she was, no sunglasses this time. Her eyes were this piercing green and she looked me up and down like she was reading a book. Locked out, she asked with a small, almost teasing smile. I laughed awkwardly. Yeah, rookie move. She leaned against her door frame, crossed her arms and tilted her head. Are you the new guy from 3A? I nodded. Yeah, Dylan. She smiled wider, then glanced around the empty hallway and said words I swear I'll never forget. Are you brave enough to come in? I froze. I thought I misheard her. I must have looked like a deer in headlights. She chuckled softly. Relax. I'm not going to murder you. I just figured you might want to wait inside while you call a locksmith, instead of standing here looking miserable. My heart was racing not from fear, but from the sheer unexpectedness of it. I mean, who says that? But I was cold, frustrated, and honestly curious. Sure, thank you, I said. I stepped inside her apartment, and I swear it felt like I walked into another world. The hallway had plain beige walls, but her apartment, it was warm, full of plants, books, candles, old vinyl records, painting soft jazz playing in the background. It smelled faintly like vanilla and cedarwood. I'm Rachel, by the way, she said. Nice to meet you, Rachel, I replied, still trying to take in the cozy chaos around me. She handed me her phone. Call your locksmith. You can wait here. I called, got told it would take about an hour. I sat awkwardly on her green velvet couch while she watered plants, hummed softly, and barely seemed to notice me. The whole time I kept thinking, what's her story? Why is she so calm about a stranger sitting in her living room? After a few minutes, she finally sat across from me, curling up with a glass of red wine. So Dylan, what's your deal? She asked, locking eyes with me. My deal? I laughed nervously. I'm just the idiot who locks himself out. She smiled again. You're the first person I've let into this apartment since I moved here. I don't know why I did. That sentence hit me weird. It wasn't flirtatious. It wasn't cold either. It was like a confession. The locksmith finally called me back. I stood up to leave. Rachel walked me to the door. Thanks for the hospitality, I said. As I stepped out, she leaned slightly toward me and whispered, You passed. I turned to ask what she meant, but she had already closed the door. I walked back to my apartment in a daze, wondering what the hell just happened. I didn't know it yet, but that was just the beginning. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. You passed. What did she mean? It played on a loop in my head. I kept telling myself it was probably just her way of joking, but something about her calm confidence didn't feel like small talk. I went back to my usual routine deadlines, coffee walking Bruno. Every time I passed apartment 3B, I felt a strange tension, like I had stepped into something I didn't understand. I tried to shake it off. I took Bruno out for his evening walk. As I came back inside, I nearly bumped into Rachel in the lobby. She was wearing casual clothes for the first time, black leggings, white oversized sweater, messy bun, no makeup, yet still effortlessly striking. "Hey, Dylan." She greeted me with a soft smile. "Hey, Rachel, you survived the locksmith, I see." "Barely," I said. She laughed quietly, and then just as I thought we'd part ways, she paused. "Listen, I know this is random, but I made too much food tonight. If you're not busy, you can join me for dinner." I froze. Part of me screamed, "Don't overthink it. It's just dinner." But another part of me remembered the feeling of stepping into her world. "Yeah, sure," I heard myself say. "I'd like that. Give me 10 minutes." I walked Bruno back upstairs, heart racing again, and paced around my apartment nervously. Why was I so thrown off? It was just dinner with a neighbor. I changed into something slightly nicer and knocked on her door exactly 10 minutes later. Rachel opened the door and motioned for me to come in. The apartment looked cozier than before. The lights were low, the same soft jazz playing, the scent of garlic and herbs filling the air. "Smells amazing," I said as I stepped inside. "Oh, chicken piccata, my specialty," she replied. As she moved gracefully around the kitchen, I stood awkwardly near the couch. There were more little details I noticed this time, black and white photos on the wall, mostly landscapes, a large vintage mirror, a collection of books ranging from classic literature to psychology to true crime. Bruno sniffed around and flopped down on a rug like he owned the place. "He's comfortable," Rachel observed with a grin. "Yeah, he usually is," I said. We sat at a small round table near the window. The food was incredible, but the conversation was what pulled me in. We talked about everything: music, books, bad dating stories, work stress. I told her about freelancing and the nightmare clients who wanted unlimited revisions. She told me about owning her salon and how exhausting but rewarding it was. At some point, I asked the question that had been sitting in my head since the night I got locked out. "Can I ask you something?" She raised an eyebrow playfully. "I figured you would eventually." "What did you mean by you passed the other night?" Rachel put down her wine glass and smiled. But this time it was a softer, almost vulnerable smile. "I've lived here for over a year. I've met neighbors, chatted briefly, but I never let anyone in," she said. She paused. "I don't like unpredictable people. I watched you first. You seemed harmless enough, friendly, calm, not pushy. I sat there stunned, unsure if I should feel flattered or cautious. So I passed your secret neighbor test," I joked. She laughed, the tension breaking. "Something like that." I found myself relaxing more around her. There was no hidden agenda, just a woman who liked her boundaries and privacy, and somehow I had slipped past the invisible line she kept up. After dinner, she made us tea. We sat on the couch, Bruno snoring between us, the city lights flickering through her window. It was a comfortable silence for a while. Then Rachel spoke again, quieter this time. "People get too close, too fast these days," she said, staring out the window. "I've learned that the hard way." I didn't push for details. I just nodded. "I get it," I replied. "Sometimes you just want simple company without the pressure of expectations." She looked at me, almost surprised by my answer, then smiled faintly. "Exactly." We finished our tea. I glanced at the clock. It was close to midnight. "I should let you sleep," I said as I stood up. Rachel walked me to the door. "Thank you for dinner," I added. "You're welcome." "And Dylan." I turned as I stepped out into the hallway. "Thanks for not being complicated," she said. I gave her a small smile. "Good night, Rachel." "Good night." I walked back to my apartment feeling oddly content, yet intrigued. I had no idea where this strange, unexpected neighbor friendship was headed, but I knew I wasn't ready for it to end just yet. The next few days settled into an odd rhythm. I would run into Rachel occasionally in the hallway, share small talk, or exchange a smile as we passed each other. There was an unspoken ease between us, like we both knew exactly where the boundaries were. I liked it. It felt safe, simple. But that didn't last long. One evening I was walking Bruno when I noticed Rachel standing outside the building. She was on the phone, pacing, her voice low and tense, and I couldn't hear the full conversation, but I caught sharp words. No, I told you to leave me alone. Stop showing up. This isn't your business anymore. When she noticed me, she quickly hung up, smiled weakly, and waved. I didn't press. I figured we all have our bad days. Later that night, I heard a soft knock on my door. When I opened it, Rachel stood there, her usual calm, dim shoulders slightly slumped. Her confidence faded. Hey, sorry. I know it's late, she said softly. Could I borrow your dog for a walk? I blinked. You want to walk, Bruno? She laughed lightly. Yeah, I just need some air, and I figure having a dog makes it less weird to be outside alone. Bruno wagged his tail enthusiastically. Sure, but I'll come too. He pulls, I said. We walked around the block in comfortable silence. The city was quiet, just distant traffic and the sound of Bruno's nails clicking on the sidewalk. Eventually, Rachel spoke. Sometimes I think I'm too independent for my own good. I glanced over. Is this about the phone call? She stopped walking and stared straight ahead. It's my ex. We split up a year ago, but he doesn't seem to understand what that means. I nodded slowly. Is he dangerous? She shook her head. Not physically, just persistent controlling. I've changed my number twice already. I stayed quiet for a moment. Do you want me to do anything? Rachel smiled gratefully. No, you've already done more than enough by listening. We walked a little longer before heading back inside. As we stepped into the building lobby, I spotted a man standing near the mailboxes, tall, dark jacket, ball cap pulled low over his face. Rachel stiffened immediately. The man glanced up briefly and walked straight out the door without saying a word. Is that him? I whispered. Rachel nodded tightly. I watched as she inhaled deeply, composing herself. Before we went upstairs, we stopped at her door. Do you want me to stay for a while? I asked. Her lips curled into the faintest smile. I appreciate it, but no, I'll be fine. Rachel, I started. She cut me off gently. I promise, I know how to handle myself. I hesitated, but finally nodded. All right, but if you need anything, text me anytime. Thank you, Dylan. Really, she said. I walked back to my apartment, still unsettled. I didn't know her well, but I knew that kind of look, someone trying to appear strong, but quietly exhausted inside. The next morning, things seemed back to normal. I ran into Rachel in the laundry room. She wore sunglasses again, sipping iced coffee while leaning against the dryer. Morning, Dylan, she greeted me, her usual calm restored. Morning, everything okay? Yep, she said lightly. Crisis averted. I wasn't sure I believed her, but I didn't push. We talked casually about nothing, the weather bad, laundry machines, my disastrous attempt to cook salmon the night before. As I left, she stopped me. Hey, by the way, I'm having a few friends over this weekend for dinner. And drinks, nothing crazy. You should come by. Are you sure? I asked. I don't want to intrude. Her smile softened. You're not intruding. You're officially my favorite neighbor now. I laughed. I'll take that as an honor. Saturday, 70 euro. Don't be late, she said. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, thinking about how fast things were changing. I barely knew this woman a week ago, and now I was walking her dog at night and invited to her apartment for a gathering. Something in my gut told me it wasn't just a casual neighborly invite. I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't even sure I was brave enough to find out. Saturday arrived faster than I expected. I stood in front of my mirror, adjusting my shirt for the third time. It wasn't a date I kept telling myself. It was just a friendly neighbor inviting me over for dinner. And yet, it felt like something more. I knocked on Rachel's door. The door opened, and for a moment I froze. Rachel looked stunning in a simple black dress, hair down in soft waves, minimal makeup. She smiled warmly. You made it, she said. I said I would, I replied. Do I pass the punctuality test too? She laughed and stepped aside. Come in. Her apartment looked different. The lights were dimmed, soft candles flickered, and the table was beautifully set for six. A charcuterie board and two bottles of red wine sat in the middle. Wow, this looks incredible, I said. Rachel smiled modestly. I get carried away sometimes. I used to love hosting dinner parties. I noticed a subtle tension in her tone, but didn't comment. One by one, her friends arrived. First came Lauren and Megan, two women in their early 30s, both stylish and outgoing. Then James, a tall, quiet guy who worked as a nurse. Finally, Rachel's friend Angela, a talkative real estate agent who immediately started asking me a million questions. So you're the mysterious new neighbor, Angela teased. I guess I am. I smiled awkwardly. Throughout dinner, I listened more than I spoke. The dynamic was fascinating. Rachel held court effortlessly, keeping the conversation flowing between laughs and light debates. Everyone clearly adored her, but I also noticed how Rachel subtly avoided talking about her personal life. Anytime someone brought up relationships or her past, she skillfully redirected. At one point, I caught Rachel watching me across the table. Our eyes met, and she gave me a soft, knowing smile that sent a strange mix of comfort and nerves through me. After dinner, everyone moved to the living room with drinks. Bruno happily wandered between guests collecting pets and belly rubs. You've got a great dog, James said. Thanks. He's the real star of the building, I replied. The conversation eventually turned to neighborhood gossip. Lauren mentioned a man who had been lurking around the building recently. My stomach tightened. Tall, dark jacket, baseball cap, I asked. Yeah. How do you know? Lauren replied. I glanced at Rachel. She had gone completely still. I've seen him once or twice, near the mailboxes, I said casually, not wanting to cause panic. Rachel stood up quickly and walked into the kitchen. No one else seemed to notice, but I did. I excused myself and followed. Hey, are you okay? I asked softly. Rachel stared blankly at the sink, gripping the counter. It's him, she whispered. I know it's him, my ex. I gently touched her arm. Do you want me to call someone? The building manager, police. She shook her head. No, not tonight. Please don't say anything to them. I don't want them to worry. I nodded reluctantly. All right, but you don't have to handle this alone, Rachel. For the first time since I met her, I saw a crack in her composed exterior. She looked tired, vulnerable, like someone carrying more weight than she let on. We stood there in silence for a long moment before she exhaled slowly and turned back toward the party, her usual mask of calm sliding back into place. The rest of the evening passed uneventfully, but I noticed Rachel glancing at the window several times. When the guests finally left, I stayed behind to help her clean up. Thank you for tonight, I said. You pulled off an amazing dinner. She smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. I'm glad I did, I said. Rachel sighed. You know I don't usually let people this close, but you've been different safe. I'm just a guy with a dog, I joked, trying to lighten the mood. She smiled faintly. Maybe. Or maybe you're exactly the person I needed right now. We stood there in the quiet, the soft flicker of candlelight between us. I knew I had crossed an invisible line from neighbor to something more, not romantic, not yet, but something built on trust, patience, and understanding. I should go, I finally said. Rachel walked me to the door. As I stepped into the hallway, she hesitated. Dylan, she said. I turned back. Thank you for everything. I nodded. Anytime. You know where to find me. Back in my apartment, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying the night in my mind. I knew something had shifted between us. I also knew things were about to get even more complicated. The next week felt uneasy. Rachel and I went back to friendly hellos and casual chats in the hallway, but something had shifted. Her messages stopped. The random knocks on my door stopped. I knew why. Every time I passed her door, I could feel the weight of what she was carrying. And then on a Wednesday night, everything came to a head. I had just come back from walking Bruno when I found Rachel sitting on the floor outside my door, knees pulled to her chest, arms wrapped tightly around them. Her head shot up as I approached. "Rachel," I said. Her eyes were red and tired. "Can I come in?" "Of course," I replied. I opened the door, let Bruno rush in, and Rachel followed slowly behind. I watched her hesitate before sitting on the couch. I sat opposite her. "I'm sorry for showing up like this," she said softly. "I didn't know where else to go." "You don't have to apologize," I said. She took a deep breath. "I saw him again today. He followed me from the coffee shop back here. He stood outside for almost an hour before he left. I didn't know what to do. I clenched my fist instinctively. You have to report this, Rachel. It's not just persistence anymore. It's stalking." "I know," she said, staring blankly at the floor. "I just kept thinking I could handle it, that I could ignore him long enough for him to give up." There was a long silence. I let her sit in it. "I'll go with you to file a police report tomorrow," I said firmly. "You're not going through this alone." For the first time in days, she gave me a small, genuine smile. "Thank you." We sat there in the stillness of my apartment. No music, no candles, just two people exhausted by real life. Bruno, sensing the heavy mood, curled up at Rachel's feet. "Why did you let me in that first night?" I asked quietly. Rachel looked at me, her expression softening. "Because you didn't push. You didn't try to be anyone you weren't. I trusted you before I even realized I did." I nodded slowly. I've always liked simple. Complicated never ends well. Rachel laughed softly, almost bitterly. "I used to believe complicated was exciting. I don't anymore." The next morning, we walked together to the police station. Rachel made her statement. The officer listened carefully, took down everything, and promised to issue a restraining order. I stood by her side the entire time. For the first time in over a week, I saw her shoulders relax ever so slightly as we left the building. Over the next few days, Rachel slowly started to come back to life. We walked Bruno together. We grabbed coffee, no more random knocks or cryptic smiles, just normal quiet company. One afternoon, we sat in the park watching Bruno roll in the grass. Rachel turned to me. "I've decided I'm going to move." I stared at her, not shocked, but still saddened. "This place doesn't feel safe anymore," she continued. "I found a small townhouse about 20 minutes from here. It's quiet, private, it feels right." I nodded. "I understand. I wanted to tell you before I disappeared," she added with a small smile. "I appreciate that," I said. "You deserve peace." She reached out and squeezed my hand gently. "You gave me space when I needed it and strength when I couldn't do it myself. I'll never forget that." I smiled back. "You'll be missed around here, Rachel." We spent the next week as unofficial goodbyes, late-night walks, small talks in the hallway, random coffee runs. There was no big dramatic confession, no last-minute romantic twist, just mutual respect and gratitude for an unexpected bond that changed us both. The day she moved out, I helped carry boxes to the moving truck. Rachel stood on the sidewalk, took a long look at the building, then turned to me. "I never wanted anything complicated between us," she said softly. "Neither did I." I replied. We hugged tight but brief. "Take care of yourself," I whispered. "You too, Dylan," she said. I watched as the truck pulled away, feeling both a strange sadness and peace. Our chapter had closed. Rachel had moved on to a quieter life. I stayed. Life returned to normal, but I was different somehow. Later that night, I walked Bruno around the block like I always did. I passed the empty apartment 3B. The lights were off, no soft jazz, playing no faint scent of vanilla and cedarwood, just silence. I smiled to myself. Sometimes the people who unexpectedly walk into your life aren't meant to stay forever. Sometimes they show up to teach you something, and when their purpose is done, they go. I wasn't sad. I was grateful. Rachel had been my neighbor, my friend, my unexpected reminder that even brief connections can leave permanent marks. As Bruno tugged me forward down the street, I whispered, Goodbye, Rachel. The story of Dylan and Rachel delivers a powerful life lesson about the transformative impact of empathy and trust in fleeting yet meaningful connections. Dylan's journey from a curious neighbor to a steadfast ally teaches us that sometimes the most profound relationships are those that don't demand permanence, but leave lasting marks through mutual understanding. Rachel's guarded nature and her struggle with an intrusive ex highlight the courage it takes to open up despite past wounds, while Dylan's willingness to offer support without pushing boundaries shows the strength of simple, selfless compassion. Their bond built on quiet moments like shared dinners and late-night walks with Bruno reminds us to cherish the people who enter our lives unexpectedly, even if only for a season. Rachel's decision to move for her peace underscores the importance of prioritizing personal safety and healing, while Dylan's acceptance of her departure reflects the maturity of letting go with gratitude. This emotional narrative urges us to be present for others, to listen without judgment, and to recognize that even brief encounters can teach us resilience and grace. Please share your thoughts in the comments. Has an unexpected friendship ever changed your perspective? Your stories deepen our community's connection. If this tale touched your heart, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell to join our journey of heartfelt storytelling. Let's keep exploring life's meaningful lessons together.